If you've been on TikTok or Instagram in the past couple of years, there's a good chance you've seen a lot of videos that feature original songs from recent movies. Whether it's Peaches from the Super Mario Bros. Movie, or I'm Just Ken from Barbie, this trend of movies that reappropriate classic musical theater sequences to get social media's attention is becoming more and more common. The modern musical movie seems to be going through a bit of an identity crisis after a string of box office failures. But while some studios are struggling to know what to do with the future of this genre, others have found ways to profoundly redefine it in an unexpected way. So like I said, the current state of movie musicals is bleak. There have been many box office bombs in the past 5 years. In 2023, there was The Color Purple. In 2021, there was In the Heights, West Side Story, and Dear Evan Hansen. All of these were movie adaptations of popular shows that financially failed in their movie versions. And in 2019, there was the iconic bomb of Cats. The results have been so bad that most movie musicals are now reserved for streaming services like Spirited in 2022, Tick Tick Boom in 2021, or The Prom in 2020. And this isn't the first time audiences have become disinterested in musicals. In fact, there was a time in the 1970s that I believe perfectly mirrors where we are right now. The movie musical has seen many rises and falls over the years, but at the end of the 1960s into the 1970s, the genre seemed as dead as it could get. Author Matthew Kennedy writes that at the time, musicals came to represent the disconnection between what Hollywood was producing and what the public wanted. The genre went out of style at a time when cynicism was taking over the American population during the 1960s and 70s. So in 1977, this low-budget movie comes to the mainstream that defies everything the big blockbuster musical of the 1960s came to represent. It was called Saturday Night Fever. In Saturday Night Fever, there was no singing out your feelings in emotional ballads. Instead, there were big dance numbers to pop songs of the day. Author Jenny Oyallon-Koloski claims that Saturday Night Fever began this trend of low-budget danceploitation movies that continue to prioritize scenes of characters dancing rather than singing. And then a film came along in 1983 that changed the genre forever, bringing it a level of financial success that musical movies hadn't seen in years. Flashdance was the danceploitation movie on steroids. It's a story about a woman who works in a steel mill during the day, and dances in a bar at night, and her main desire in the story is to get into a ballet school. The movie is wall-to-wall pop music and dance sequences. In fact, in Todd McCarthy's film review for Variety, he described it as pretty much like looking at MTV for 96 minutes. And the film's marketers took advantage of that, very famously using music videos released on MTV as a way of marketing both the film and the soundtrack, a new concept at the time. This strategy worked very well in the film's favor, making it over $200 million on a $7 million budget. The Flashdance soundtrack ended up becoming #1 on the Billboard Top 200 in the summer of 1983, and sold over 20 million copies. Musical soundtracks had made money before, but not quite like this. The soundtrack album became an essential part of selling a movie musical, and a profitable one at that. Think of the soundtrack for The Breakfast Club, or Dirty Dancing. I know when I listen to a great movie soundtrack, it encourages me to go back and watch that movie again. Musicals can create this experience as well, but in an even more enhanced way because the music is literally telling the story. Musical nerds everywhere listened to the Hamilton soundtrack on repeat in 2016, and it added to the general hype of that show. Like many film genres before it, the musical had saved itself by adapting to what modern audiences were looking for. But it had also found new ways to market itself and cross-promote with a tie-in album. After Saturday Night Fever and Flashdance, nothing would be the same for the genre.
Whatever time the deed took place.
Now, how does this all connect to today? Well, like in the 1970s, Hollywood is once again trying a lot of new techniques to get audiences to show up to musical movies. I mean, in this recent article from Deadline that went around film Twitter a lot, author Anthony D'Alessandro claims that test audiences' focus groups generally hate musicals, and the only way to get them into theaters with one is to trick them. He says this in reference to the recent Timothée Chalamet movie Wonka, which is a musical but isn't really marketed as such. Honestly, looking through all the main Wonka trailers myself, I could only find one where I can see Timothée Chalamet actually singing, and it's the trailer for the soundtrack. To me, this kind of marketing seems to be intentionally deceptive, but it actually seems to work quite well. Wonka was a box office hit, as was the recent Mean Girls movie, which completely avoided marketing itself as a musical. Funnily enough, the Mean Girls musical was originally intended for streaming, but was switched to a theatrical release in September. But most successful of all is a trend of movies that aren't traditional musicals like Wonka or Mean Girls. These movies may include only one or two major musical sequences that are completely hidden in marketing, but go viral after the release and serve as an excellent way of promoting the film's word of mouth on social media. I'll be exploring 3 examples of this latest trend from last year: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Barbie.
I wrote this song about a boy back in 12, and I hope he hears it. When I was a babe, I fell down in the hall.
The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to The Hunger Games that features many songs sung by its female lead, Rachel Zegler. These songs represent the character's emotions like a traditional musical, but all are delivered as diegetic on-stage performances. In this way, Ballad is similar to the Showbiz musical, which has been one of the few types of movies in the genre to have remained consistently popular in the last 10 years. Just think of The Greatest Showman, The Trolls, Sing, and Pitch Perfect movies, Bohemian Rhapsody, Elvis, and A Star is Born. All these movies can include big musical sequences in their marketing campaigns, while also justifying those sequences as normal to audiences that may be cautious about traditional musicals. The main difference here is that Ballad barely shows any of them in its trailers. Pre-release, we mostly just saw the marketing of a song that only appears in the credits, Can't Catch Me Now by Olivia Rodrigo, and a song already recognized in the Hunger Games canon, The Hanging Tree. Since the movie has been released, the music has become a huge part of why it stayed in the public conversation. If your algorithm has been overcome with Tom Blythe fan camps over the past month, then you definitely know that songs from that movie score basically every single one. And as a result of the film's consistent popularity, its box office has actually stayed above industry expectations for multiple weeks. And The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is certainly not the only movie last year that this post-release TikTok hype happened to. Near the beginning of the year, we had the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which featured the song Peaches, sung by America's sweetheart Jack Black.
Peaches, 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 peaches.
For months after the release of that movie, you saw Peaches played in every single TikTok, Instagram Reel, YouTube Short, you name it. I mean, as of the recording of this video, it has 123 million streams on Spotify. Like with Flashdance's music videos, there were multiple videos released for Peaches. The stated official version has been seen 97 million times, and the version featuring Jack Black dressed in a Bowser costume has been seen 57 million times. And of course, both videos make sure to include the Super Mario Bros. Movie in their titles. Mario stayed at number 1 in the box office for 4 weekends, becoming the 3rd highest grossing animated movie ever. And I think it's worth pointing out that all 4 of the highest grossing animated movies have popular soundtracks. Mario was using what had been successful about animated musicals for so long, a catchy tune that keeps kids wanting to come back for more, to its great advantage.
Great!
Now let's explore the 3rd example, the most successful of the 3, the box office Goliath.
Ken?
Oh, hey, Barbie.
Hi.
In Barbie, there isn't just one silly song like Super Mario, there are multiple sequences that intentionally visually reference the golden age of Hollywood musicals. Like with Peaches, the songs I'm Just Ken and Push scored many an internet video. Also, like with Can't Catch Me Now by Olivia Rodrigo, the songs that were written by popular artists for the movie like Dance the Night by Dua Lipa and What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish continued to be heavily streamed and played on the radio.
I'm just Ken!
Barbie's soundtrack has also brought in something that popular movie musicals often receive: awards recognition.
The Sound of Music, Robert Weiss.
Whether it's The Sound of Music,
Chicago!
or more recently,
La La Land.
musicals can have a good chance of doing well in awards season. Now with Barbie's screenplay being moved by the Academy Awards from Best Original Screenplay to Best Adapted Screenplay, a more competitive category, the music in Barbie may be its only chance for some Oscar recognition. It's fair to say that all these movies are having their cake and eating it too. If there are risky musical elements, they hide it in marketing. But when the film is released and a soundtrack album really helps to market the movie, they go out of their way to show off those elements as a way of earning a little more cash on top of the film's release, like Flashdance did in 1983. So even though these 3 movies from last year technically weren't musicals, seeing musical sequences in them was something I really enjoyed, and clearly a lot of other people did too. I just hope this isn't the future for the genre in Hollywood, that it's reserved for only small musical sequences in larger movies that are hidden behind layers and layers of marketing. Luckily, we do have some more traditional adaptations still coming our way. There's a 2-part Wicked movie, and we have more unconventional approaches like the sequel to Joker that will be a musical with Lady Gaga. We have come far from the Roadshow musicals in the 1960s. Money-making ventures and risk aversion have continued to morph the genre into something unrecognizable from its roots. I'm sure my even bringing up the Super Mario Bros. Movie or Barbie in this conversation will make people skeptical of everything I have to say, but movies that aren't marketed as musicals but include songs that trend on TikTok could become a point of focus for studios. I know I just personally hope that trend from the early 2000s where there was like a dance party at the end of every animated movie, I hope that thing specifically comes back. That was the peak of the genre. Alright, thanks for watching.